Hey, good morning, everybody. We have a higher trade in the grain markets here early on Tuesday morning. It is 6:13 a.m. Central Time as I speak here this morning. I apologize. I think I've got a little bit of background noise. I hope you can hear me okay. December corn futures up 6.5 cents at 5.53 1/4. November soybeans up 16 1/4 at 13.74. September Chicago wheat is down 2 1/4 at 6.74 3/4. The Kansas City wheat market down a couple as well, and just some muted gains in the spring wheat market. So row crops up, wheat market more of a mixed affair. We did have our crop ratings out yesterday from the government, and corn and soybean ratings both declined. This was not necessarily expected. I think a lot of traders expected kind of an unchanged type deal here for the week. But the corn crop is rated 64% good to excellent. That was down from 65 last week, below the 68% average. We saw declines in Iowa, North Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Pennsylvania. That crop is 79% silking nationally versus 56 last week, 73 on average. 18% of the crop in the dough stage versus 8 last week and 17 on average. Soybean ratings also declined. We saw a 2-point decline there. 58% good to excellent, down from 60 last week, 65 on average. Analysts on average expected ratings again near unchanged there. Declines were noted in Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Indiana. Bean crop 76% blooming nationally versus 63 last week, 71 on average. 42% of that crop setting pods versus 23 last week and 36 on average. Another terrible spring wheat rating, another decline there. Crop is now rated only 9% good to excellent nationally, down from 11 last week, way below the 64% average. That crop is rated 66% poor to very poor, which is up from 63 last week. Harvest just getting started in some areas. The crop is 3% harvested nationally, up from nothing last week, 2 on average. Most of that activity is in South Dakota. The U.S. winter wheat crop 84% harvested versus 73 last week and 81 on average. Harvest in regard to winter wheat is basically done in the southern plains and the Midwest. It's really the slower pace in the Pacific Northwest that is dragging down the national pace here. Extended U.S. weather forecasts look a little bit less threatening to me. When you pull up that 8 to 14 day weather prediction center map in particular, we're now looking for normal to above normal rainfall for almost the entire Corn Belt. Heat is still an issue for the next couple of weeks, and that's something that doesn't appear to be going away anytime soon, especially in the northern plains and the western Corn Belt. So short term here, really not much in terms of organized rainfall. Longer term, I think you've got maybe some light at the end of the tunnel here potentially. Argentina has declared a state of emergency due to low water levels on the Piranha River. This is a 180-day water emergency that's being declared. They're going to advise residents and businesses essentially to reduce the use of water. This is a quote from the government. The extraordinary magnitude of the emergency requires that all areas of the national government join forces to mitigate this hydrological phenomenon in the areas affected. As I discussed a little bit yesterday, this river accounts for 80% of all their ag exports flow through this river, and they've had a reduced vessel capacity. Argentina is going to be the second largest exporter of corn this year in the world, and they are typically the largest exporter of both meal and oil. Export shipments for corn and soybeans soft last week. Shipments for both crops, guys, have been running below the pace needed to hit USDA projections. So there's a lot of talk now that USDA will have to reduce its export projections for this old crop marketing year, which ends on August 31st. We've only got 5 weeks left. The pace of shipments is not where it needs to be. So we may need to add, or USDA may need to add, some bushels back onto the balance sheets, essentially increasing those old crop carryout numbers because of the poor pace of shipments. The Fed begins its 2-day meeting today. We'll see an announcement regarding interest rates. They're going to be unchanged. We're looking for any talk or hints of tapering in regard to asset purchases. The Fed is still buying treasuries from the U.S. government every single month to the tune of $120 billion. We're looking for any change in tone, essentially, as the trade always is with this Fed stuff. Friday is first notice day for August soybean meal and oil futures. If you have any positions there, make sure you take a look. Cattle market had a really nice day yesterday. Triple-digit gains in the fat cattle and the feeder cattle. This all has to do, I think, a lot of it with those reports from Friday. You had cattle inventories as well as cattle on feed. So we'll see if we can follow through and maybe see some of that reflected in the cash trade this week. Stock market marginally lower here this morning, kind of a quiet deal in the outside markets. Everybody have a wonderful day today. As you can see, I'm traveling. I'll be back in the office tomorrow. We'll talk to you then.